Hello! Welcome to Visual Stars. I'm James, he's James, and today is our first lesson. So, tell us, comment below, tell us if you're watching this live or watching it on replay.
Absolutely right. So, because it's lesson one, we've come here today to tell you about the biggest thing, right? The thing that you need to be aware of in order to make your videos go even further. This is the one thing that you need to know at this point. The thing that's just going to take your videos crazy far. Are they ready to hear this?
I'm not sure, are they?
I don't know. Okay, we'll tell you. Right. So what we're talking today,
It's about the background.
Background. Okay. So there's mainly two sides of the two forms of the background we want to talk about.
Yeah.
The immediate background and the slightly further about background. Is what's immediately behind you. So what's behind us? Not a lot. We want to be thinking about what's immediately there. So are you standing in front of a car? Are you standing in front of a window? Are you standing in front of a mirror? I've seen loads of people do lives where they're standing in front of mirrors.
Really?
Yeah, so like you can see behind them.
Okay, that's a strange way of doing a live.
Absolutely.
Okay, yeah.
But I suppose what we're starting to think about is, have you thought about what's behind you? Have you looked? So we've planned this really carefully. We've thought about what's immediately there, but also what's a bit further afield. So we've kind of chosen something that we think looks pretty nice. We've got a bridge in the background. We've got the river.
Can we see the river?
Waving hands to indicate water.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Just along here, just
in front of the river weir.
Yeah.
And we just kind of put all this together to kind of have the best effect. We're outside, obviously. We're taking advantage of natural light. We've got a really cool setup. We'll talk more about our setup maybe a little bit later on. But we've put a lot of thought into our background.
We really have. And this actually is something called mise en scène.
What?
Yeah, I knew when I said this, I was thinking, do I say this or not? So mise en scène. I knew as soon as I say, you'd be like, what the hell? Right? Okay. So mise en scène.
Wait, I've had this. It's Thai food. Sorry, kidding.
So mise en scène. So mise en scène is actually a French word which means what's in the scene. Okay. So when we talk about the scene, it's actually the frame. So if you look at our shot here, so I'm looking off screen at a computer where we can see our frame. So our frame itself, we know exactly what's in there, but we've chosen it deliberately. So it's making sure that everything that's in your frame is there for a purpose. Right. So it's actually providing value to your video.
Okay. So each component part has been carefully chosen. Obviously, some things we can't control, right? So we haven't chosen that tree, but we chose that direction. So we can influence which way the camera points. And so we kind of thought about colors and lighting and other things that can influence the right message, because what we want to portray in this sense is that it's an attractive background. We want people to be able to relate to the background. We want to make this emotional. Is that a fair way to think about it? Emotional on some level, right?
Yeah,
so
it is.
We want it to be, we're outside because it's a beautiful sunny day, so why would you want to be inside, right? And so that makes it look more attractive, more engaging. We want people to see our videos. If it's dark, if you're buried away in a corner of an office somewhere, is that something you would engage with? I think that's a pretty good question to ask yourself. Would you watch this, right? So I think something you mentioned earlier was about doing like a dry run, right?
Yes.
So get your phone or whatever and just record it. Don't go live straight away. Record it. Watch it back. So then you're kind of looking at it and going, am I dark? Am I too light? What's behind me? I once did a live ages ago, and I had a glass wall essentially behind me, talking to these people going live, and it was fine. It worked really well. But when I actually watched the replay back, loads of people were walking behind me on the other side of the glass. And what I didn't realize is as they got behind the glass, they look through, they can see my screen, and they're just standing there kind of waving. And then, hang on. See, that's the cyclist that we ordered. Do you know how difficult it is to arrange a professional cyclist to ride past on a footpath? A lot of organisation for that.
Yeah.
So as I mentioned, there's some things that we can't control, but that's fine. It doesn't take anything away. It's a public footpath, and Amy's going to chase him down and knock him off his bike in a second. But the point is,
we've allowed for this because we know we're filming in public. So it's kind of almost thinking about in terms of what we can control within our background, what we can actually control when we're filming. So again, all of this is kind of comes down to what we want to get within our scene, what we actually want to show on camera, and then how that's actually going to impact and benefit the video.
Absolutely. Okay, so when we think about stuff in the background, if it's kind of a prominent feature, and that's what we tried to capture here, there is, again, if I look on the screen, you can see there's the green bridge behind me. We're going to show you the northern spire, which is mainly our view from the office, which I think maybe we're doing now. So we're going to have our camera operator.
We're going to go for a row. Oh,
right.
she's moving for us, so we'll come round. So,
oh, sorry.
Oh.
Right, cool. We're still in shot, right? So we've got our producer with us. Thanks, Amy. And so you can see Northern Spire behind us. Yep, brilliant. Okay, so what I wanted to essentially ask James, as we've got him here, video expert, from a production perspective, from a recording perspective, what about permission? So we've got Northern Spire in the background. We don't own Northern Spire. Are we allowed to video that? What's the crack with that from a license perspective, I suppose?
Yeah, so in terms of when things are in the public domain, you're more than welcome to film them.
Okay.
Where it kind of comes in terms of what you need to look for permission is actually when it's private property. So, for argument's sake, let's say the Metro Centre. Okay, you would need to get permission to go film in the Metro Centre.
Okay.
And that's purely because there's different brands in there. Obviously, the Metro Centre is owned by a different company. So, for argument's sake, if you was doing quite a topical piece on camera, obviously the company themselves, the Metro Centre, is it Into? Yeah, Into that own it. You know, you're on their property and you're voicing your opinion, and that for them is, you know, essentially you're kind of representing their brand in a way because you're on their property. So it's all about, for companies, it's that thing now where companies are more and more aware that there's this brand engagement. People want obviously to people engage with them all. So it's making sure that actually the content that you're creating is in alignment to what their brand values are.
Sure.
So there's obviously, so a lot of it at the time, you will find that some companies won't allow you to film there.
Okay.
Arguments, I think one of the great ones to say that for is football stadiums.
Right. So they don't allow it.
Not within the stadium itself, and they've got some clubs have exclusive rights for certain companies that can and can't do things. But as a general rule, I know you can't go in there and just start filming.
Okay.
Obviously, on match day, I don't think it's really enforceable with.
Right.
So 50,000 people.
Right. So what you're allowed to do and what you get in trouble for doing might be a little bit different. But if we're sticking to the right advice,
yes,
you should get permission.
Yes.
Always get permission. Maybe that's the takeaway.
Always get permission. Okay. Always get permission.
So actually, just as you mentioned about Into, that's something that popped into my mind. So we've got the Metro Centre, Into own that, we get that.
Yeah.
So if I was filming in the Apple store, might I need permission from Into and Apple?
Yes, you would.
Okay.
Yeah, I would. Because I think probably the more pressing would be Apple, because you're in front of their products, you're in front of obviously their brand itself. But if you was name dropping, say that, you know, the Gateshead Metro Centre, there might be. It comes down to what the actual content of your video is. Right. There's a lot of it. This is where it's murky waters in a way, because everything's still getting decided on. There's new European legislation coming through in terms of what can and can't be done, and what can and can't be taken in terms of what's already in the public domain to be repurposed. So it's lots of sort of things coming through, but as a general rule of advice, ask for permission first.
Okay. Err on the side of caution, ask permission. I think that's a good takeaway. Yeah. Okay. Now, talking of the sunshine, you mentioned that already.
Yes.
Lighting, we've got natural light.
Yes.
I've always been, if you pardon the pun, a natural fan of natural light. I think we try with like fluorescent tubes, and it kind of gets a weird rippling effect.
Yeah, it's a flickering effect. So that's actually caused, just to be really technical right now.
Go for it.
So that's actually caused by the camera matching the frame rate of the actual flicker. So that's where you see those it's almost like bands coming down the screen, and that's basically what it is.
So what you need to do is shake your camera. Is that what you're saying? It's not what he's saying. That was meant to be a joke. That's what happens when you do an unscripted joke. Just kidding. Don't shake your camera. That's not a good idea. Okay, so we're outside. We've got natural light. Is there anything we need to think about from a prep perspective? Do we think we've got the sun coming down at an angle on us? Yeah. Obviously at midday, for summertime at least, the sun's likely to be overhead, and et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. What's the thought process around that? So,
again, when it comes to lighting, I think a lot of people think we need to have the light as bright as possible and it's just rammed in your face. But what that actually does, it actually gets rid of all these shadows. You know, if we stand and look at each other now, hopefully on camera you can see underneath James's eyes. You can see there's a light.
Easy. Easy now.
We're getting close.
I don't think we need to talk about shadows under the eyes, do we? Is that necessary?
But it's more unscripted jokes. But right, so what we're looking at is actually where the light's coming onto his face. That's more natural. That's what I would expect to see, compared to a light just forcing straight onto his face and getting rid of all those shadows. When you used to see, if you think about when you walk into a room, where is the light? It's above your head.
Yep.
If you walk into a room, all the lights are above us, so we're used to seeing lights.
Okay.
We're seeing shadows on our face. So the shadows actually give us more. It's more like human kind of thing, because obviously we want to, when we're watching any video content, we're always looking to identify with somebody. So if it looks like they've got no shadows and look really washed out, it kind of looks strange, and our brain takes a while to process it and kind of understand it.
Right.
When it comes to filming outdoors, I tend to like to film, as you can see with James here, like one side in light and one side in shadow. I think it gives it more of a cinematic effect.
I think represents my soul quite nicely as well.
I think it does. Yeah.
One side light, one side in darkness. That's perhaps a different episode.
Yes, that is, yes.
Okay, cool. So we're trying to represent or replicate the natural feel,
yeah,
right?
It is as much as we can. I think it's creating, I think it's like you said, I'm trying to over-explain this, and I don't really need to. It's just we want it to look natural. That's what we want.
So we're used to seeing people in a certain way.
Yes.
Just the way light naturally falls.
Yes.
Replicate that, it will look natural. Now, I think that's an excellent segue into something I want to talk about, using things like front-facing cameras on phones, because that too replicates a natural way we tend to see ourselves. So, and it's the key thing is how we see ourselves. You look in the mirror, and obviously you see yourself flipped, you see yourself reversed, because it's a mirror. So when we're using front-facing cameras on phones, which is a pretty normal way to do a live, that image is quite often reversed as well. So you see yourself how you expect to see yourself. It's flipped. Now that's a great thing. No issue with that at all. But when we think about our background, quite often we want to put some branding in our background. That could be a pop-up banner, or we've got some cue cards with a bit of branding on. But if the image is flipped, then the text will be flipped. Right. So we need to be prepared for that. We need to plan for that. So we're sending out our image in a certain way. But if you are using that front-facing camera, then what could you do for that? What can you do to prepare for that? If you know the image is going to be flipped, I know you were telling me a great story earlier. I want to share with everyone else.
I mean, there's so obviously you can print the things the other way around. So we all know this story. Greggs and Phoenix at Christmas time. They saw him. I'm sure everybody's seen this. We chatted at length about this earlier, but it was that thing of at Christmas the sign. This Greggs on Northumberland Street. It was Northumberland Street, wasn't it?
Yes.
And I say
with more confidence.
Yes, Northumberland Street.
The studio is telling us yes, it was Northumberland Street.
Yes, Northumberland Street. But obviously the sign went up. It was backwards, and everyone's like, "Oh, why is Greg done the sign backwards?" Everyone was saying Greggs are idiots. And sure enough, at night when everyone's there for the launch, they see that the Greggs sign is the perfect way. So when everyone's getting their selfies, we've got the beautiful signage for Greggs, and it's the right way around. So it's a perfect example of how to create a brilliant background.
Absolutely. So it's kind of like an aspect of guerrilla marketing.
It is, yeah.
But it shows true preparation from Greggs. So all credit to Greggs for thinking of it. But James is actually right. It's the same analogy that we're sharing with you. You've got that mirror concept. You know it's going to be flipped, or in this case, they knew it's going to be flipped as people took pictures of the Phoenix window with I think it was the snowman this year. They have a story scene, I think it's from the snowman. And they know everyone takes a photo of that, and they saw each year that their image was always backwards. So they just changed the sign. So the sign was backwards, and lo and behold, Greggs, the right way around, appears in everyone's photo taking the Phoenix window. What a great idea.
It is. It's a fantastic idea. But that's an idea that you can do. You can do this for your own background.
Absolutely.
And make sure that your background is fantastic. And it's just these are the little things. Again, it comes back to your mise en scène. It comes back to that.
Your Thai food.
Yeah, your Thai food. It comes back, and you love it. Mise en scène.
Just trying to put you off.
I know you are. It's French, man. It's French. It's not even close. Right. But it comes back to that. It comes back to that every single time. It's looking at the value of what your background's actually doing for you and your video.
Right, absolutely. So if you've got your pop-up banner, theoretically, you could flip that.
Yeah.
Right, you have it printed backwards. We're not necessarily saying go out and rush and do that. It could just be, print off your website address backwards.
Yeah.
Flip it, right? So it looks backwards on the paper, but then when it's behind you, everyone's going to see it the right way around. It will look weird when you're in your home or your office or whatever. Who cares? It's what people see on video. Yeah. That's what counts.
It's the execution, isn't it?
Yes.
That's what it is.
Absolutely. So it's planning, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, there was another thing that we had a great conversation about that I wanted to share with everyone, and it's around movement. right?
Movement, okay.
Right, so I don't just mean like movement how we did it, where we just rotated around. It's the movement of, well, two things, right? So what about movement behind us? Now, we don't have a lot going on. We've deliberately chosen that. What you might be able to hear is a bit of background noise. There's a road to the side of us. Now, if we had that in shot, you may well see cars going past. So what I want to ask is, first of all, what can we do, or what should we be worried about? Let me rephrase that. Should we be worried about movement in the background as far as like cars or pedestrians, bikes going past us? Are these things we should be concerned about as distractions?
They can be, yes. So this actually leads on to a wonderful story. So I've never told you this before. So I recently edited a video for a client. Again, he'd filmed outside. He did financial services. So it's quite a serious video. He was talking about in terms of how you know managing your estate and things. And he'd filmed it in the park. Unfortunately, what he didn't know was
I don't like where this is going.
Left shoulder, a dog walked into shot and peed against the bin.
Oh. That wasn't going as badly as I thought it was going to go. So that's okay. Dog pee. Okay. Right.
Yeah, but still, that's that thing of. So, what I would say is almost to begin with is control. It's look to what you can control. So whether it's a case of like what we've done, we know we've got an element of control over this background, because we know not a lot of people walk up and down here, and we know when the busy times are. So we've deliberately filmed, and it's a quieter time, haven't we? So that's why we've done that. So again, it's a lot of times it's kind of just working out how you can control that background. For and again, I think it comes down to what the actual context of the video is. So I'm trying to think of something where you would actually use a road. So so maybe you're a road planner. So you would want to have a road in there, you'd want to show that movement. But again, if your topic's all about the movement of services or something like this, it just comes down to the relevance. I think a lot of the time, if you need the extra bit of movement in there. But for me, I always tend to look for a background that I can control and can know that nothing's going to influence it, and obviously there's going to be no distractions appearing, because we've all seen those news programs, haven't we, where there's somebody in the background and then they're waving their flags, whether for whichever side they are. It's that sort of thing that really you don't want in your background. So it's just kind of controlling.
Okay, so mitigating that risk. Yeah. Okay, cool. Now the other side of movement is almost the deliberate movement. And I've always enjoyed. We've had lots of almost, I suppose, psychological conversations around this. I don't know, that might not be the right word, but the concept of using movement within video. Where and I just learned some new terms today myself about something called a dolly out. Between us and the camera is about 6 foot. So if we were to then move forward and walk down this footpath, then if we pick up the camera and move it with us, then obviously we're transitioning forward, right? Which gives a great sense of motion within the video, the psychological sense of moving forward through a journey while literally moving forward. And so we've had lots of great conversations about how we could do that with just something as simple as like a selfie stick, and you're walking along and you're kind of like talking about stuff, and maybe the viewers feel like they're part of that journey and going along with it as well. Is that something that I suppose you would recommend? Is it something you've done? Is it something that's easy to do? Am I right? Can you just get a selfie stick, pop a phone in, boom, get moving?
You can, yeah. So I mean, that's how I do a lot of my lives. I like to use a selfie stick, but that's mainly because I like to sit in my chair. I like to swing around in my chair a lot. I know that for me, when I swing in my chair, I know that's a nerves thing. So there's a little secret to you when you see.
Hang on, I was going to pause there. So you get nervous about doing video?
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's a really important thing, because I know I've been asked. It's essentially the same question where they kind of go, well, you do live all the time. You do live it. You make video all the time. How come you guys don't get nervous? And I go, of course we get nervous. Right? You'd be crazy if you were never nervous about anything. But I suppose what we're looking at today is how to mitigate those nerves, how to be prepared so you don't feel as nervous. And that, of course, is the whole point of Visual Stars along that journey, to kind of go, okay, so if I eliminate where I think things might go wrong, I don't need to be as nervous about that one part. And what we've done is broken down those parts into several different parts to mitigate each one. So I think I speak for everyone when I say, you know what, if this guy gets nervous doing videos, I think we should all feel a little bit better about doing lives, right? Is that fair? I'm not picking on that.
I
genuinely
agree.
I think everyone feels the same way.
Yeah, I think it is one of those things. I mean, I've worked with a lot of clients who, I know I've got one in particular who's got a particular shuffling move that he does, but I know that's
called a shimmy.
it's for shimmy shake. You know, he does this little move here, but that helps settle his nerves and it gets him in a right frame of mind. And we do it now.
Before the video or during?
So this is before we actually do the take.
Okay.
So before the take, it's the last thing I get them to do because I know it actually settles them down and they actually relax. You can see the shoulders go from here down to here. So it's just knowing. I think a lot of the time it's actually just watching back some of the videos that you've done and actually identifying the behaviors that you do. So I know for me, when I love using a selfie stick because I love moving around. I like the flexibility it provides me. Originally, I always used to do all my videos live or pre-recorded, locked off and controlled because that's what I felt comfortable with. But then I kind of grew to that next stage of where I actually wanted that flexibility. So if I wanted to go do a walk and talk video, or if I just wanted to move around the office, it's so much more difficult when it's locked off on a tripod.
Okay.
But again, it swings and back, around, whether you want to have that movement or whether you want to have that really stabilized shot.
Sure.
I don't want to get too much into that because obviously we're going to be talking.
Yeah, we are going to talk about that. But it's fair. I think the takeaway I get from that is essentially it's kind of like the horses for courses thing. Yeah. Sometimes you're going to want some equipment. Sometimes you're going to want other equipment. Yeah. So we'll definitely get more into that. So I think that. Oh no, there was one more question. Sorry, I nearly forgot. So from a branding perspective in public, specifically other people's branding. I just want to check on that. So if I'm on the public street, so let's assume that I am in Northumberland Street, I'm making a film live about Greggs. What's the crack with that? Am I allowed to shoot their storefront? I mean, particularly in that case, they've pretty much put it out there expecting people to do it. So maybe in that case, they're volunteering it. But generally speaking, is there guidance on that?
I would be asking for permission, straight off the bat, asking for permission to be able to go do this. If you think about it in respect to what I said before, it's a brand. They've got certain values and obviously things that they want to uphold and promote. If you're there doing, what could be essentially be a nasty video or, a negative video or whatever it is, or even it's a case of you're talking about, your new health food that you're launching. You say, you shouldn't be going to this place. You should be buying this.
Okay.
Yeah, it's those sort of things that kind of, they're just obviously there's millions of different examples that you can do, but again, it's kind of a lot of it comes down to the actual brand itself. I mean, the only way I would kind of really describe it is how would you feel if I did it to you or somebody did it to you? And that would be the same thing. It doesn't matter about the company size and wherever they're based or whatever they've got there. However public they are, they still have a brand the brand to present. So it's kind of, I would always lean against asking for permission first, because they're more likely to share your video as well. Let's be honest. That's right. We want more people seeing our video content.
Okay, fair enough. So do unto others, right?
Yeah.
So if you would want someone to come ask your permission, if they're going to make a video using your brand, and I think we probably all would, ask permission yourself.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Were there any other points that you wanted to share that we haven't touched on?
So I think we should maybe talk about a challenge.
A challenge.
I think
there's going to be homework.
Yes, I think there should be. I'll be the mean one. I'll be the mean one. I think we should do a challenge. What should we challenge these guys to do? I know what we should challenge them to do. So you guys, what I want you all to do is I want you to do a live video, but you don't need to be on camera. So you can use the forward-facing camra. He says hesitant.
Yeah,
is that right? Yeah,
either.
Yeah.
Why not?
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So either camera. So. But what we want to do is we actually want you to show us your background, the background that you're going to use to create a live video. I want you to explain to us the mise en scène. Tell us what you've got in there and why it's there.
Okay.
Do you think that's reasonable?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, let's give you a bit of guidance as far as what you should be saying, because that's the key thing, right? Yeah. We're removing, we want to work with you along this whole journey. So we fully appreciate why you've joined Visual Stars. We're tackling some of the technical issues in sessions like this, but we're also starting to tackle some of the emotional issues. So we understand that you don't maybe feel ready just yet to jump straight into a full-on do it live. So that's why we're saying, so don't go on camera, right? Just go live in the group. Do it in this group. Support each other. That's what we love about this program. Strong community vibe. So go live in the group. Like James says, show us the scene, right? And talk us through it, right? Tell us why you've chosen that cushion, why you've chosen that background, why you've chosen to light it in that way. Just talk us through the meaning behind the scenes. So the three things we'd like you to introduce, maybe your name,
yes,
the name of your business, and tell us what your business does. Do it in 10 words, 10, 15 words, right? So don't necessarily make the whole thing like a 20-minute explanation of how you can help. Just the thing that people need to remember, because in those first few seconds of your life, that might be all they see, right? For whatever reason, and you need to capture that straight away. So it's a good thing to practice. So tell us that, who you are, who your business is, and what you do really succinctly.
So don't forget to tell us whether you're watching this live or you're watching this on the replay. I think that's everything.
Yeah.
Lesson 1.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thanks very much for joining us. What we would love you to do is, if there's people that you think would benefit from these sessions and working up to the July 10th date, we would love you to invite them. We want a big community. We've got already, obviously, the best people already here, right? But other good ones as well. That's what we want. So if you want to share it, you want to introduce anyone else, that would be awesome.